Mishikat, 1847 to 1969. Mishikat is named after the Indian chief Mishikat, meaning hairy legs. The Indians which inhabited the area around the village were members of the Menominee, Potawatomi, and Winnebago tribes. They were a peace-loving group and fished and hunted for their food. They inhabited the areas along the east and west Twin Rivers and used the open areas for planting grounds during the summer months. The area back of the present elementary school was one of the planting grounds. The village of Mishikat owes its origin to a sawmill being located on the East Twin River, which afforded excellent water power. This was established in 1855 by Alfred Smith and Ira Clark, two of the town's earliest pioneers. Here is a map of Mishikat taken from the County Plat Book of 1878. A group of pioneers settled near the top of Saxonburg Hill. They came to this area from Saxon, Germany, and named the area around the eastern side of the present village Saxony. Saxony was later changed to Mishikat. The Miller family was one of the earliest pioneer families to arrive here. The present Miller Farm still belongs to the descendants of that pioneer family. Here are the names, nativity, business, and date of settlement of some of the early settlers from the County Plat Book of 1878. It is also noted that the wages paid laborers in the pioneer days ranged from 5 cents an hour to 40 cents an hour for a 10-hour day, 6 days a week. Average weekly wages netted a worker from $3 to $24. This grist and sawmill was erected by Philip Huffman in the 1890s. Farmers brought their grain from miles around to have it ground into feed. The present structure now serves as a feed mill and also houses the Twin Rivers Co-op. The Michigan Opera House was one of the largest of its kind in the county. It had a floor space of about 4,500 square feet and was used mainly as a dance floor. It had a large stage, and home talent companies and traveling companies used it to stage productions. The hall was also used for roller skating and basketball. Here is a capacity crowd scene of a game between Michigan and Brussels in 1954, when Michigan's basketball team went undefeated in regular season play with an 18-0 record. This is the Opera Hall at the present time. It is still used for dances and banquets. The Michigan Amusement Company owned and operated the Elite Theater, the most up-to-date moving picture playhouse in the state in the early 1900s. All pictures shown here were passed by the National Board of Censorship. Between showing of films, the Holst Band, a five-piece orchestra, provided entertainment. The theater was located between Shire's Meat Market and Miller's Garage. The first brass band in Michigan was the Michigan National Band, organized around the year 1913. Members of the original brass band were, first row, left to right, Anton Chedevy, Ed Steckmesser, George Prinzel Sr. Second row, Alvin Steckmesser, Kurt Steckmesser, John Flengy, and Herbert Steckmesser. The Michigan Telephone Company, organized in 1909 with about 50 miles of line extending over a radius of 8 miles, and had about 150 subscribers. The switchboard was located at the Central Hotel, now well known as Kielman's Village Inn and the Vogue Beauty Shop. The General Telephone Company is the present owner and has 951 subscribers at present time. The new telephone building serving the Michigan area was erected and finished in 1968. The congregation of the Evangelical Church had its origin as far back as 1860, when 6 charter member families, Brune, Bernhardt, Whitty, Miller, Lansing, and Kinder, built a small wooden frame building about 2.5 miles east of the village near the present August Hayne Jr. farmhouse. This group of families later joined the group from the town of Kossuth, which held its services in the Pfefferkorn farm home and built the white frame building called the Zion Evangelical United Brethren Church. Most of the labor was donated and the building was constructed for $3,500 and still stands in its present form. In 1968, the congregation merged with the Methodist Church and is now known as the Zion United Methodist. Transportation has changed through the years in Michigan. In the 1890s, and even before that time, the one-horse carriage was the principal means of getting from one place to another. It was used for shopping in town, visiting friends, or for just running everyday errands. The two-horse carriage was also used as somewhat as the family car is used today. It was used whenever the whole family had places to go. The two-horse carriage was used principally to get the family to church on Sundays or any other function the family was invited to attend. In 1896, Henry Ford invented the first car, but it wasn't until the year 1908 that the first car appeared in Michigan. Here is a 1908 model which was one of the first 6 cars to appear on the streets in Michigan. Notice that it didn't have any windshield. The shifting lever was on the side of the car, and the driver sat on the right-hand side rather than the customary left-hand side as evidenced in later models. In 1913, the cars changed. A windshield was added, and the steering mechanism was shifted to the left-hand side. In 1913, the first car dealership in Manitowoc County was started by Matt Prinzel. He handled the Ford line, the universal car as it was noted then. The cars were shipped in by horse and wagon, or in the wintertime by horse and sleigh from Two Rivers. They came in parts and had to be assembled by the dealer before they could be sold or driven. The average price of the new car in those days was $600 to $700. In 1913, the first motorbike also appeared in Michigan. George Prinzel Sr. was the proud possessor of this 3-horsepower motorbike. $75 to $80 bought a new motorbike in 1913. This is an early 1920 automobile. Here we see a 1932 Plymouth with spare tire on the side. Bringing us up to date, here is a 1969 Pontiac Grand Prix owned by Clarence Stengel, Michigan High School history instructor. This is Jackson Street looking east. The first house on the right was built by old Nick Shire and has been in the Shire family for many years. The house in the background was owned by George Schmidt. The Shire House is now owned by Glenn Klein, and the Schmidt House is owned by Sanford Wolfmeyer. The Rockway School was built in 1905 at a cost of $6,000. Although it served principally as a high school, it wasn't until 1918 that the first class of a four-year high school graduated. It served as a high school for 57 years. In 1958, with the opening of the new high school, it became an elementary school. 7 years later, it was closed down due to the building of a new grade school. But it didn't stay vacant long. With the increase in enrollment, it was put back into operation 2 years later. This is when it got its present name, the Rockway School. The present Michigan High School, with room for 500 students, was completed on April 10, 1958, at a price of $605,000. 318 high school students attended the school's first classes. This number has grown to 408 in 1969. Due to the increase in students and teachers, Otto Schultz, principal of the Michigan schools for 24 years, assumed the new position of superintendent of the Michigan schools during the 1968-69 school year. Jerry Kane filled the position of principal vacated by Mr. Schultz during that same school year. At the present time, there are 22 teachers on the high school teaching staff. This bird's-eye view shows the Central Hotel, which was a very popular inn during the early history of Michigan. It is here that riders of the stagecoach going between Green Bay and Two Rivers could stop over for the night. The Rockway School, then known as the Michigan Grade School, and St. Peter's Lutheran Church can be seen in the background. The windmill pumped water for the horses that were kept at the livery stables, as well as for the teams that brought customers to the village business places. The two-story home in the background was the home of the village doctor. Dr. Canup had an operating room in the home and performed minor surgery in the home. It was later taken over by Dr. Score and is presently inhabited by the Otto Schultz family. The Central Hotel is presently inhabited by Kielman's Village Inn, the Vogue Beauty Shop, and the Model Barber Shop. Lutheran Church and Parsonage. The beginning of the congregation of St. Peter's Lutheran Church was organized in the middle of the 19th century and was served by a circuit rider preacher. In 1861, a group consisting of John Boaz, Louis Bartles, A. Jens, Carl Wilsman, and others organized the first congregation and held services in the schoolhouse on Cemetery Hill, across from the present Twin River Cooperative. The first church was a wood frame building, which was replaced with a granite structure in 1927. The red granite stone was brought to Francis Creek by rail, where members of the congregation brought teams and wagons to transport the stone to the present church site. The total cost of the building was $30,000. Reverend Edward Zell served the congregation from 1911 until his death in 1958, totaling 47 years of ministry. The Mishikat Brewery was built in 1847 by a man named Kiddemeyer. It was operated by Mr. Lindstead from 1848 until the Shires bought it in the late 1890s from Kiddemeyer. Lindstead apparently was the brewmaster in the intervening years. They brewed 40 barrels at a time about 3 times a week. The beer was shipped by horse and wagon in about a 30-mile radius. Later, with the use of trucks, the beer sold as far away as Milwaukee. This is one of the labels from a bottle of Mishikat beer. The brewery was closed during Prohibition, and in 1933 the Shire sold it to some Chicago brewers who began some extensive remodeling. They went bankrupt, and Jess Lambert picked it up for back taxes. He later sold it to Western Condensing, and it is presently being run by Foremost Dairies. This is Main Street, South Side. The south side of the Main Street area was along the river's edge. Board sidewalks helped to keep feet dry during the muddy spring weather. Early spring floods brought hardship to the stores and shops located along the river's edge. The house on the corner was the old Holtz house, which was destroyed by an explosion in 1960, killing one person. Main Street, South Side today has a new clinic erected near the spot where the old Holtz house blew up. The Badger Restaurant and Tavern still occupy the same corner on Main Street, and in 1939 bowling alleys were added to the original structure. This is the old Chris Garage. It was used as a livery stable for many years. With the coming of the automobile, it was converted into a garage around 1915. Kumbalik's Tavern is now located on that site. Holy Cross Parochial School was erected in 1907 at a cost of $2,031. It was remodeled in 1913 from a one-room to a two-room school with living quarters upstairs for the sisters. In 1952, the present school auditorium and Sisters Convent was completed at a cost of $144,000. Members of the 1911-1912 Mishikat Championship basketball team. Left to right, front row, Elmer Levenhagen, Gus Cushnet. Second row, unknown, Hans Shire, Art Holtz, George Larson, Henry Greenwood. Third row, Earl Shire, Ray Shire, and Earl Steckmesser. This is a summer cottage as it looked in the early 1900s. It was located on Main Street on the south side of town. This is the same cottage as it looks today. The State Bank was founded March 9, 1910. Some of the early officers were I. Beyer, President, A. Rhodey, Vice President, H. Sten, Cashier. A statement given out by the bank about the year 1915 showed capitalization $15,000, undivided profits $19,000, deposits $121,000, and assets $140,000. Here is the Mishicot Savings Bank, now a branch of the Two Rivers Savings Bank as it appears today. The bank statement from 1968 showed total deposits of $1,690,000. Holy Cross Parish began in 1854. In 1862, the first Holy Cross Church was built. It was then a satellite of St. Luke's Parish of Two Rivers. It withdrew from there in 1898 with Reverend A. Bastron and Reverend P. St. Louis as the first pastors. There were about 70 families in the parish when it was first organized. (1961) saw Holy Cross Church enlarged from a seating capacity of 300 to 450. A new rectory was also constructed at that time. Total cost of this project was $184,000. Here is the new rectory, completed in 1961. This is a view of East Water Street, North Side, in the early 1900s. Notice the wooden sidewalks, the hitching post, and the horse and buggy. Here is East Water Street as it appears today. The Holtz Department Store was one of the thriving business places in the early days of Mishicot. Anything from shoes to food could be purchased in the general store. It was a favorite gathering place for the early pioneers of Mishicot. The business was started in 1889 and was one of the largest department stores in the county. Everything was carried in the line of general merchandise and furnishing goods, with departments for each line. This was the dry goods department. Groceries can be seen in the rear of the store. This was the shoe department. Here's where the men's and boys' clothing department was located. This was the underwear and men's furnishing department. And here is the ladies' furnishing department. This is the old Holt store as it looks today. It is now known as Krause's Shopping Center. George Krause, owner and proprietor, bought the store in 1963 from the Holst family. It has been remodeled and is now primarily a grocery store. A meat department was also added, and an appliance department is another aspect of the shopping center that serves the customer. This is a view of the grocery department. Here's the meat department. The checkout counters and the drug department. This is Elizabeth Avenue looking south. The corner house is the present Otto Schultz residence, which at one time belonged to Dr. Carnap and Dr. Score. The second home is presently under ownership of Bernard Bruchot. This is a view of Elizabeth Avenue at the present time. An unusual feature of a small inland town having no transportation facilities was the Michigan Electric Light and Power Company, erected and run by Ira Beyer in 1912. A large concrete dam spanned the East Twin River, backing up water for miles and developing hundreds of horsepower which were utilized in the operation of the generator. The generators produced sufficient current to light the village, and the surplus current was put into storage batteries to be used during the daytime, thus giving the village continual 24-hour service. One of the worst floods the village of Michigan experienced was in 1936. The spring thaw sent the East Twin River over its banks and flooded the whole south side of town, so that many stores on the main street suffered severe water damage. Huge chunks of ice and debris spilled onto Michigan's main street from the roaring East Twin River. The principal flooded area of Michigan covered some 3 blocks of Lower Main Street to the bridge, with the park completely underwater. In August 1939, George Prinzel Sr. built the Michigan Dairy. He ran and managed it till 1948, when he sold it to a Sheboygan firm. During some of the busy years, he had as many as 17 men working for him. The Michigan Dairy is still in existence today and produces butter and cheese that is sold all over the country. This is a view of the old Right-Way store. It is now the home of the Ice Implement Company. Notice how the prices have changed from the late 1930s to the present 1969. Corn Flakes, large size, 17 cents. Peanut butter, 21 cents a quart. Salt, 2 pounds for a nickel. Corn, peas, or tomatoes, 3 20-ounce cans for 25 cents. In July 1947, Mishigot celebrated its 100 years of existence. This was one of the biggest events in the history of Mishigot, attracting many people from miles around. The two-day event held a variety of entertainment and festivities, as evidenced by the program. There were games, concessions, and rides. There were concerts, a circus, and parades. Huge crowds watch such attractions as the statewide horse pulling contest. Here is a picture of City Hall, which is the regular meeting place for members of the village board. The Mishigot Elementary School was built in 1965. The school contains 56,000 square feet and cost $650,000. The school was built to accommodate 800 children, grades kindergarten through 8. It includes 26 classrooms, offices, educational material center, art and music rooms, and the cafeteria. This school was one of the first in the area with the modern snowflake design. November 1962 saw completion of a medical clinic on property originally owned by Augusta Holtz, later purchased by Art Holtz, and finally purchased for construction of a clinic by a corporation formed in 1960. Stock was sold, and the land was purchased in February 1961 by the corporation. Dr. John E. Nilles, M.D., moved into the clinic in 1962, and Dr. Ronald J. Lease, dentist, moved into the building in 1964. The new fire station was built in 1967 and was financed from funds from the Volunteer Fire Department. There are 4 trucks in the department at the present time, including a 1928 GMC, which is used for parades and to haul hoses for fires. 22 volunteer firemen serve the village and nearby townships. This is a picture of the building which was once a funeral home and furniture store run by a Mr. Miller. In 1951, he sold it to August Speck, who also ran it as a funeral home and furniture store for 13 years. In 1964, Irwin Lambert bought the funeral home and ran it for 3 years until moving to a new building. George Prinzel Jr., better known as Junior, bought and remodeled it, and it has been since a favorite gathering place for local teenagers. It's now known as Junior's Burger Shop. This is the Lambert Funeral Home, Manitowoc County's newest funeral home, built in 1965. The new variety store, opened in 1968, was a house that Ned Demsine remodeled. In 1960, Leo Kostichka, a present postmaster, built the new post office on Main Street. For 11 years previous to this, it was located in Blattler's Red Owl building. Before that, the post office was located on the east side of Main Street between Ice Implement and the Vogue Beauty Shop. The first post office in Michigan was established in 1854 with F.M. Faulrich as postmaster. The Michigan Lumber Company was originally built as Standard Lumber Yards in 1947 on the present site. Jim Anderley, present owner, was the first manager with 2 employees. Now the lumber company is 3 times its original size and has 6 employees. This is a view of a portion of the F.W. Bunye Mink Ranch, which was started in 1931 and has been on the present site since 1942. The Mink Ranch employs an average of 15 people and ships over 20,000 mink pelts each year to New York, where they are sold at an auction. Dark and mutation mink are raised on the ranch. Al's Restaurant and Drive-In was built in 1960 by Florence Bunye as a prelude to Fox Hills Country Club. Seating capacity is 55. The pride of Michigan is beautiful Fox Hills Country Club. This recreational and supper club complex was the result of the imagination and foresight of Florence W. Bunye, who began formulating his ideas on this project in the late 1950s. Fox Hills has 70 employees and can seat 1,200 people. It is the scene of many social functions, including proms, weddings, and class reunions. Numerous organizations hold regular business dinner meetings here. Guests can enjoy dining and dancing on weekends. Fox Hills, one of the outstanding supper clubs in the state of Wisconsin. A driving range and an 18-hole championship golf course provide ample opportunity for the avid golfer to enjoy his favorite sport at Fox Hills. The north 9 holes cover 69 acres, with the south 9, seen here, covering 79 acres. An additional 176 acres have been purchased for a third 9 holes, scheduled to be completed in 1970, with a future airstrip planned for a part of the 176 acres. The residents of Mishikat and vicinity are a friendly and congenial people. They are always interested in progress and are also fond of their social activities, which include card and sewing clubs, bowling leagues, church societies, along with numerous school functions. Organizations play an important role also. Among them are the Lions Club, Jaycees, VFW, Sportsman's Club, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, 4-H clubs, and the Farm Bureau. Mishikat, a thriving community with a fondly remembered past and a bright and prosperous future, is living to uphold our ideals of democracy and freedom.